David, let's talk about Anaheim. And of course, in Anaheim, the mayor and the council have been going at it. They're disagreeing on, a deal to keep the Angels in town, on whether to give subsidies to hotel developers, whether to switch from at-large voting to district voting to give Latinos a bigger voice in what's going on in Anaheim. That's gone from nasty to downright ugly.
As vicious, and you set the stage perfectly, because those are exactly the three issues. And what's happening now is it's really turning into a political affair and a real dogfight. I want to roll a piece of tape that was from your show last week, an exchange between Anaheim Mayor Tom Tait and Council Member Kris Murray. It's going to set the stage for what's going on, and I'll explain. Let's take a look at that tape if we can.
There were horribly anti-Semitic comments made, and until Lucille Kring and I asked the mayor to intervene, there was nothing done to stop it. And the presiding officer is the only one with the gavel to try to correct that kind of behavior.
Tom, I see you shaking your head.
Well, clearly supporters. There's one gentleman who comes to our meetings, every meeting, ran against me for mayor. I actually had to bring suit against him, so hardly a supporter, said some terrible things. But as you know, at that meeting, at a council meeting, that mic is privileged, and you could say slanderous, terrible things, and there's very little we can do about it. The same gentleman brought suit against the County of Orange for trying to stop him a few years ago.
Tom Tait, the mayor who you saw there, these two, they're talking about a gentleman by the name of William Fitzgerald. I actually did a story on him. He hired the ACLU to sue the Orange County Board of Supervisors recently. He's one of these gadflies that goes to supervisors meetings, he goes to council meetings, and he really is off the cuff and says some really terrible, horrible things. In this case, he said some very anti-Semitic remarks, and what happened is all of a sudden, Kris Murray and the council majority started attacking Mayor Tom Tait for sort of not stifling William Fitzgerald or reprimanding him or scolding him. Well, really, what can you say? The gentleman has his First Amendment rights. He's basically allowed to say what he wants to say. And the scuttle rumor is that former Mayor Kurt Pringle, the former mayor of Anaheim, had one of his people working for him, Todd Priest, all of a sudden send out emails to a Jewish councilwoman here in Irvine to say how terrible this was. They sent information to the Orange County Human Relations Commission denouncing Tom, calling him basically anti-Semitic. Why didn't he do anything? Well, Tom Tait really was the only person, Rick, who stood up and said, hey, you know what, William Fitzgerald, you got to take a step back and you got to ease up a little bit. Now, there's one important thing to this story that I want to read to you. I did a little digging on this because a lot of the strings being pulled, the reports have it, are from former Mayor Kurt Pringle. Well, get this, and I'm sorry I'm going to age myself with my glasses, but back in March of 2006, a woman by the name of Alma Ramirez, she's like William Fitzgerald, she's a gadfly that goes to all the meetings, when Kurt Pringle, who made these allegations against Tom Tait when he was then sitting at the helm of the council, Alma would go in front of the dais and say, the Jews here are a part of a Jewish mob. They're abusing Orange County. In a meeting on July 11th, 2006, I got the transcript. She said, quote, ranting about Jews, quote, the Zionist mafia has been monopolizing publishing today. Truman was very put out with the Jews. President Truman said he had no use for them and didn't care what happened to the Jews. My point is that if Kurt Pringle or his team is going to call out Tom Tait and say, how come you didn't say anything about William Fitzgerald saying these anti-Semitic remarks, Kurt Pringle never said one word about this woman, Alma, who would rant about Jews constantly. That is hypocrisy at the best. That is politicizing it. And this is a shame and a scam and a sham.
This sounds like dirty politics.
Well, as a Jewish person, who has been to a number of city council meetings, I would just like to say that might have been the least anti-Semitic thing I've ever heard said by a crazy person at a meeting. It's when you give people the mic without any sort of background checks, these things are going to happen, and I don't like hearing those words, but they're not the fault of the person who heard them. They're the fault of the person who said them, and in fact, the people who are trying to turn this into a bigger story than it is, those are the ones who are being prejudiced. Those are the ones who are looking for controversy. Okay. They're the ones at fault.
And Steve, you get the last